Welcome back. With me here, I have Joanne and Godwill here to give us a whole ton of information and insights in regards to sensitizing young adults about HIV and AIDS. Teenagers in Kenya engage in unprotected and unplanned sexual intercourse, often resulting in sexual transmitted diseases, pregnancies, and HIV infections, while not being able to want to learn, or rather not being able to access things like condoms, protection, contraceptives. And Joanne and Godwill here, karibuni sana,
Thank you.
are here to give us information, opinions, and every little thing. They will be able to guide us through this conversation. How are you?
I'm fine.
Mnaendeleaje? How are you feeling this morning?
We are good.
Kindly, Godwill, introduce yourself. Who is Godwill?
I'm Kadasia Godwill, currently an undergraduate pursuing a bachelor's degree in education, that is education science, majoring in mathematics and physics.
And who is Joanne?
I'm Joanne Maria Kyoko, an undergraduate student in the School of Education at third year. I'm currently pursuing biology and chemistry. Yes, as bachelor's in education, that is.
Nice.
Yes.
Karibuni sana.
Thank you.
These are the Kenyatta University peer counselors. It's good to have you here. We're grateful to have you here. Godwill, tell us, what are your thoughts in regards to sensitizing young adults in regards to HIV and AIDS? There's an article that has been going around that says in a week, it is said that 98 young adults, female especially, contract HIV and AIDS in a week. What do you think about that?
For me, I think it's kind of true, depending on the evidence that is so overwhelming. Like, for instance, our young youths, our young upcoming adults, they are going through a hard time adapting, that is from the childhood to become the adult. And we as young parents, as our parents, at some point, they fail us to advise us that the adulthood is coming, and we are not prepared well enough. So that might be some among the many reasons why we have these many infections. Yes.
Joanne,
Yes.
why do you think that a lot of access to information and the internet and all this is one of the reasons why our children are engaging, or rather our young adults are engaging in all these sexual activities at their age?
This is because with a lot of internet information, it cannot be restricted. Yes, you can restrict at your own place. Maybe your own children, you put restrictions, but hey, they have friends and you have peer influence around. So maybe their friends, they are not restricted as much, and then they can come and influence your teen or your child to indulge in these sexual activities. So it is a matter of unrestricted information and a matter of peer influence at the same time. Yes.
Godwill, what are some of the other reasons you think that are steering our children towards the direction of having all this unprotected sexual activity?
Some of the reasons why they're having the unprotected sex, we can say it's majorly the peer influence and also the lack of information. When I say lack of information, I say, like, for example, we have the contraceptives, and the contraceptive, the main one that prevents the spread of HIV and AIDS, it's mainly the condom.
Yes.
And the condom, it has also its specifications on how to use it. So if you don't know how to use it properly, at the end of the day, you might end up contracting the STDs and the HIV AIDS, which is to their thought, they might be thinking that this happened because I used this and this and that, whereby the truth is the contraceptive was not well enough used. Yes.
Joanne, what is the right time to introduce this conversation to our young adults? What is the right time? What is the right age?
I think the right age, according to me, is from, let's say, 5 to 6 years old.
5 to 6?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
5 to 6. 5 to 6 is not too young?
It's not too young. Considering the fact that we delay this information and we give it too late, saying that our children are not yet mature. But in real sense, our children are mature, because when you go to a class for a 5 or a 6-year-old, they know what kissing is. They know they might have seen something, or they might have heard something about sex, and maybe they want to explore. So I think when we start introducing our kids early enough to sexual education, they will grow up with that impact, and they will understand what sex is as they grow up. Yes, slowly but surely you introduce them to sex education, you teach them about condoms, about contraceptives, about sex.
At 6?
No, at 5 or 6, you just tell them there's something called sex. And then after that, gradually.
I'm curious, Godwill, how do you start this conversation with a 6-year-old?
For most parents, they might perceive it as a hard thing, but as long as a kid knows I am a boy and you are a girl, it means there is a way he or she has identified that I have these and these features which make me female or male. So as long as they can identify the features, that means they can differentiate and they can understand that sex at some point it's part and parcel of their being, and you just introduce like a normal topic, like you just find their place of comfort, then you talk to them slowly. I'll pick it up from what Joanne said. Yes.
Like Joanne said, they find out they know how to kiss, they know how to hug, they know these things. I think that you should start from the known to the unknown, right?
Yeah.
From what they know to what they don't. Or that's my opinion, because I'm trying to, what do you people think? Talk to us on our social media platforms at KUTV Kenya on Twitter, at KUTV Kenya on Instagram, and at KUTV Kenya on Facebook. What do you guys think? Because I'm trying to understand how I would introduce a sexual conversation to a 6-year-old. Then at what point, I'm also curious how do I, we know teenagers hawatakangi kuambiwa. Teenagers, they know everything. How do you start? I'm assuming so, yeah? We were all teenagers at some point, and personally at some point when I was a teenager, we had our experiences, we rubbed shoulders with our parents. Hatukuwa tunataka kuambiwa. Joanne, how do you introduce this conversation to a teenager?
To a teenager, you just have to like sit them down, maybe in a place of their comfort, and you know the things that they love. So maybe you take them out on a stroll and you're like, hey, you've grown up and I appreciate the way you've grown up, but do you know that there's something called sex? And I'm sure you're embarrassed about me talking to you about it, because teenagers are shy and they don't want to be taught anything or told anything. But you just have to tell them, hey, it's okay, feel comfortable, but there's this topic that I want to introduce you to it. And then slowly but surely you become friends. You practically tell, maybe you just share ideas together. You're like, what do you understand about sex? Do you think that it is practical, it can be done at this age? And then after, slowly but surely they will open up, and then they'll tell you about maybe their friends' experience and everything, and you have to like correct them and teach them and tell them, you know, it's not done this way, that way, this way, and then you continue to impact them. And as they grow up, they have such kind of information, which is useful in preventing HIV and AIDS. Yes.
And maybe STIs.
And unwanted pregnancies. It all starts with that conversation. Start having such conversation with your teenagers, and I'm sure they can change.
Maybe they'll be able to share. Godwill, we also have issues like transactional sex amongst poverty-stricken areas. Is this one of the major contributors to HIV and AIDS among young adults?
Yes, I can say it's one of the major problems that we as youths we are currently facing, because for example, these are our young sisters, let me call them our young sisters, from the streets and slums. They're having a hard time when it comes to their menses and controlling their periods. So for example, there is this guy who is well financially, he has good muscles when it comes to financials. Then he wants to have sex with you before He can give you the cash, or he can help you so that you can be comfortable during your period of the month. So, and during this sex, mostly it is unprotected because of the notion that is going around our young elders or our older elders, that if you want something good, you take it. Yeah. So it's among the major reasons why there is so many STDs in
HIV.
Yes.
John, what do you have to say about transactional sex?
Transactional sex is simply giving out sex so that you can get something in return. And when you say about our teenagers living in poverty-stricken areas such as the slums, there's a lot of needs, especially for a girl. They want pads, they want nice clothes, they want nice shoes. Maybe they don't even have food and shelter. They have to go out and look for these things. And when going out and looking out for these things, they meet malicious, maybe elder men who want to use them for sex so that they can get something, they can give them something in return. And at that point, they don't even give a lot. They just give them like crumbs, bit by bit by bit, until they hook the girl into sex. And most of the time, it's very unprotected, and the girls really get exposed to a lot of STIs and HIV, and due to lack of information from such kind of places, they don't know what is happening to them, so they go and find out when it's too late, or they don't know how to even control it. So with such areas, we really need to go and teach them about sex education a lot.
Godwill, our education system, is it ready to embrace sex education at an early age?
I can say currently education system, it is very ready. Because if you see the current curriculum, sex education is being introduced as early as in class 6.
That's about what, 8, 9?
Yeah. So with our current generation, it means with the way our children are learning, that is around from age of 9 to 10 years to 12 at most. Yeah.
Is it still the right time, Joanne, to introduce contraceptives, use of condoms, abstinence? Is it the right time to introduce during that period of 9, 10, 11, 12?
I feel it's still too late.
Too late?
Yes.
At what point do you think we should introduce contraception, protection, all that to the children?
But okay, the sex education, yes.
We've introduced what is sex at 5 to 6. At
5 to 6. But no, it's not too late actually, because from that time is where they are maybe conscious, and you can teach them about these technical issues. Because when you're talking about contraceptives, it's not an easy thing to tell a child. So I think, I think Kadasia is Godwill is correct, because at that age, their minds is kind of opened up, and then you can teach them, and then you can explain to them what is a contraceptive, how do you use them, and at that time I believe it's a good age. It's a good age.
Godwill, will this push them to keep trying, or we can say at least even if they're doing it safely?
On that, I'll say with the current generation, we can say it's very sexually active, and it's better to have prevention. It's better to prevent than to cure, because at that point, as long as we know they are doing sex, okay, they are doing. So what do? We make them do it the right way, rather than us having them doing it and they're doing it the wrong way, which in turn leads to so many HIV infections, early pregnancies, and so many STDs. So for me, we can introduce the contraceptives, and we make them aware that these things, they are there. Yeah.
Joanne, we have the two types of education. We have the formal education at school, and the informal, which is by the parents and by counselors like you people. So at what point how do we go about it? Because there's what we expect the teachers to teach these young adults, and there's what the parents and the peer counselors will do. How do you go about it? How do you start from, this is what the teacher told you? So me as a counselor, how do I come in? You as a counselor, how do you come into the conversation?
Okay, there's you've talked about formal education and informal education. With formal education, the teacher will tell you this is a vagina, this is a penis, this is how it works, or blah blah blah. But with us, like a peer counselors, we have that peer influence. We know the language that they understand. We can easily reach to them because we understand according to their age what they really understand. We can talk their language. You can come down to their level and teach them. This is what when the teacher meant this, it is actually this and this. That's simple. You just simplify it to them. Yes, that is our role as peer counselors. We understand their language. We know how to articulate these issues to them in the very simplest way possible that they can understand. So I feel that is our role as peer counselors. And also for parents. For parents, they are supposed to simplify this information in areas where peer counselors cannot be found.
Yes.
Or maybe their peers are not available. So I feel that is what we are supposed
as counselors
to do.
you're supposed to do. I'm curious to the parents out there, parents, teachers and counselors, how do you come into the conversation of the young adults in your life? How do you bring up this conversation to them? Talk to us on all our social media platforms. Let us know how you bring up these conversations to all our children. God will, our children, like I said earlier, are really exposed. There's so much information out there.
Yes.
Is it possible to monitor it?
With the current system of internet, for me it's kind of very, very, very hard to monitor because you can't restrict someone from browsing. That is, my take is, for example, in our home, my parents, they have restricted my Wi-Fi, the way I access it and the way I browse it with. But when it comes to my friends, they are not restricted. So my parents they have restricted me. So that means I'll have to go at my friend's place so that I can use their Wi-Fi or their internet
to access whatever information I need.
Yeah.
Joanne,
Yes.
how are we feeling as a community or as a society? Because if our children can get access to all this information and we are not able to regulate it, what are we doing wrong?
I can't really say there's something that you're doing wrong due to the current upgrade in technological world. Right now they're saying that the world is like a global village, meaning you can access anything, anywhere, at any time.
Yes.
But what you can do so that even if they access this information, we at least know that they are safe wherever they are. It's maybe teach them about sex. It's maybe empower them. Just make them understand there's sex and there are contraceptives. There's something that you can prevent the spread of HIV, unwanted pregnancies and STDs. So I feel that there's nothing we can do much about the technological issue, but there's so much more that you can do by impacting their lives through education.
She said there's nothing we can change, but God will, what can we do differently? What can we do differently?
I think what we can do, the best we can do is just to sensitize our youths and tell them, bring them to light. We stop lying to them at we are waiting until the right age. There is no right age. The best we can do is as long as our children, they are in school, that means they are understanding.
Yes.
They can be able to understand. They can be able to know the difference between good and bad. If you can tell a child stealing is bad, why don't you tell the child that having sex without protection is bad?
It's wrong, yes.
Yeah. So if you can tell our child this and this is bad, so why don't we talk about sex education?
Joanne, what do you feel we can do differently?
In as much as you're teaching them about sex education at the same time, maybe parents can really take responsibility over their children, in the sense that they should at least try to regulate what their children consume. From the media, from internet, whatever they are consuming. Maybe they try to do it children friendly at some certain age. At least they should not have indulgence to a lot of information towards sex. So I feel that if parents can really take charge of restricting their children's consumption of this information, it would really help, because I believe that there's kids app everywhere. Like YouTube, we have kids app for YouTube where the children can just watch they can just watch cartoons.
Want, yes.
But it's not anything they want, but I think it's related to their age. That is what kids app is. It's an app that
Actually, I think there's YouTube Kids.
yeah, YouTube Kids,
Yes.
where they can watch all the cartoon they want, and there is no much indulgence of information, like a lot of sexual information. So I think if parents can really take charge of what their children consume, it can really be of a lot of help, in the same way sensitizing them about sex. Yes.
As we're going on with the conversation, I'd like to read some feedback. We have Muremi Njiru. An appropriate age to make the children aware about sex and contraception is around the age of 9 years, because I think this is the age where the body undergoes changes, especially for girls, which is true. Innocent Matara, children learn a lot from the content available on media. Look at our songs. Facebook and WhatsApp is all about drugs and sex. Where are we failing? What is this we're doing wrong? Where do you think we're failing, Godwill?
What I think is we as the elder brothers and sisters to these younger ones, what we are failing to notice is what I'm doing as personally, there is someone who's observing, and we are failing ourselves because we are not observing enough. Like, we are not restricting ourselves what we are doing, because I'm doing this and I'm failing to observe that someone else, there is a kid who is observing me, and he will do the same things that I'm doing. For example, as the commenters said, this Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, nowadays it's just full of sexual content.
Sure.
And you can be having a kid and you're browsing your phone, the kid is also seeing, and
nowadays children even have social media accounts.
yes, they do. So we as the elder, we are failing them, because everything we are talking about in the social media is just sex after sex after sex. So like, we as the society, we need to change our ways, and we need to be doing the right thing by leading them the right way. Yes.
Joan, what do you think the media especially can do differently? The media.
The media can really reduce. I don't know how they should reduce it, but we have Ezekiel Mutua doing his thing about banning some songs which
are too explicit.
Too explicit,
yes,
for our younger sisters and brothers to consume. So I think that is a right move or a right step. So I feel that if we continue to restrict a lot of explicit content to our younger generation, it can really help, because they learn by observation. They learn from what is around the environment. So if we try to restrict, I think we're gonna be in a better place. Yes.
Godwill, there are so many myths and misconceptions out there in regards to sex education, especially around HIV and AIDS. What are some of the myths that you've heard of?
For example, there's this common myth among our elders that if an elder man engages in sex with a younger one, he'll be cured.
Oh.
Yeah, there's another one whereby it says the virgins, they cannot contract these HIV, AIDS, the STDs and the stuff.
Hey, Joanne, I'm shocked. That was shocked.
Yes. Others say that when you don't do sex during the mother fetus age or the stage during the pregnancy, there cannot be contraction of HIV and AIDS between the mother or the child. But in real sense, maybe if you really had sex and maybe you have had such kind of a virus, of course you'll get infected. So if you desist doing it during that stage of the fetus mother's pregnancy stage, it won't really affect much. So if it is there, it will still be there. And another one is, they say that see a tamu, like you cannot eat sweet with the wrapper. Yeah, so some see a tamu, so you have to eat it without the wrapper. And that means that if you have sex with the condom, it's not as sweet as you have it without. So it is really, really misguiding people out here. Yes.
I have one. Most young girls are normally told by these elder men, when you do it while standing, you will not get pregnant because of gravity. I've heard that one before. That is a myth. It is a lie. What are some of the things, Godwill,
yes,
the society can do differently?
Our society, majorly what it needs to do, it needs to accept that sex is here with us. And as long as it is here with us, we need to sensitize our society. We need to let our youths know the right ways of doing sex, rather than just assuming that it's there and they know these things. Nobody knows everything. So the right way that our society can best do is to take these youths, advise them, talk to them, and the society would be heading in the right direction.
We make it a better place.
Yeah.
Joanne, how is education going to help this situation?
With education, they say education is power, or knowledge is power. You know, with education, you're packed in a lot of knowledge. And knowledge is something that you cannot go and buy it from a shop.
Yes.
It's something that is within. It's something that makes a person who is. So I think with when education system comes and inform our children about sex, teaches them about contraceptives, you know, makes them aware that there's something called HIV and we have STIs or STDs in the same place.
There's even pregnancy.
Yes, there's even pregnancy, and you can really get pregnant. So you see, with that, it will drive out a lot of myths from our society, and with that, it will impact the younger generation positively, and they will be growing knowing that these things really exist, and you can do 1, 2, 3, 4 things to prevent them from maybe affecting us in our daily life. Yes.
Goodwill.
Yes.
How is there a solution? Is there a solution we can find in regards to transactional sex? What can there be a solution to nini tunaweza fanya to come against this pandemic of transactional sex?
Best we can do, first we educate our youths. Then secondly, we find alternative means of helping our girls. Like for example, there are these organizations, the community can be coming together as a whole, they come up with a kitty, then we help our girls. But the major thing that we need to do is we need to educate our girls that there is other alternatives of getting what you want, rather than just selling out your body. Yes.
We can say, like the way we have free condoms being given out in schools.
Yes.
We could also have free sanitary towels being given out in primary and secondary schools. Because I believe there was an argument a while back that said going through that menstruation period is a necessary action of the body, but sex is it's not a must.
It's voluntary.
That is voluntary,
Yeah.
but menstruation is involuntary. What do you think, Joanne?
Yes, it's true that menstruation is involuntary. It's something biological. It is
You can't
fused.
control it.
Yeah, it is in depth in our bodies. You can't really control. But with sex, sex is voluntary unless it is rape. You know, rape is not voluntary, right?
Yes.
But yes, I think that in as much as we give out free condoms out here, we should have also free sanitary towels for our girls, so that we can really curb the issue or the menace of transactional sex. Because if you really research and look for what they really look for this transactional sex, it's just sanitary towels. So if the government and maybe organizations, NGOs,
Yes.
the community, they set up a kitty for these girls, I think they will be in a better place. Yes.
Goodwill, these young adults who've already contracted HIV and AIDS already are going through a lot of stigma at a young age. How should they best deal with it?
They have already contracted, yes?
Yes.
So there's forgotten the name. The ARVs.
Yes.
We have the ARVs, and once you've contracted HIV/AIDS, it's something our society needs to know that you can live with it, and as long as you're taking the ARVs, you can take it to a point whereby your viral load, it's very low and it's undetected, and you're very healthy. So long as you're having only one partner, and you and your partner, you know your sexual status, that is, I know I'm positive, you are not, and you're doing the sex the right way. You can even end up having a kid who is not sexual
Positive.
who is not positive.
Yes.
So once you've contracted the HIV and AIDS, and you know you have it, first thing is to know that this thing is there, you can live with it.
It's here with me.
Yeah, it's here with me, I can live with it. You accept and acceptance, it's the first step of healing. Once you've accepted that I'm living with it, you can take the airways and you will be very, very healthy. Yes.
Join your opinion?
Yeah, the same way as he has mentioned it. You have to first accept. When you first accept, it's the first step to healing. So you accept, you go to VCT centers, you go get your IRVs, and then after that you take your meds very well, you exercise, you eat well, you maybe meditate, and then you become stronger, healthier. And then another thing is when you find a partner, you have to like first tell them your status, so that they can know what they're indulging into, because it's not right for you to be positive and someone to be negative and you've not really talked to them about your situation. So you talk to them about your situation, and if they're willing to accept you the way you are, then it's fine and good, because we have cases where children are born without HIV and AIDS, so it is possible. So that is what I feel towards
and to accept the fact that it is not the end of life.
It's not the end of life.
Yes. As we are coming to the end of the conversation, Godwill, anything you would like to say as we close the conversation, as a parting shot in the conversation of the day?
What I'd like to say is our society, our youth, our nation, what we need to get and understand to know is that sex, it's not something to fear. And we as parents, young parents, and our elder parents, they need to know that the sex education, it's part of their duty, because at some point the parents, they're assuming that the teachers at school, that's their work to educate our young ones. And that's where the parents fail us, because we need to educate our society, and we need our younger ones to know that sex is here, and the right ways of doing it. And also sex comes with a lot of things. We have the HIV and AIDS, we have the STDs. You can contract them, and once you contract them, it's not the end of life, as you have said. There is cure for the STDs, and for the HIV, unfortunately, we don't have a cure. You only have to take your medications well, exercise, and all shall be well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Joanne, right before you give me your parting shot, how do you tell, or how do you inform a child born with HIV that they actually have HIV?
Wow, that is a tricky one. But maybe you start by explaining to them. They'll ask you, because when they are born, they start taking ARVs, right? Yes, because they have the HIV, and you have to keep the viral load low.
Yes.
So they start asking you, Mom, why am I taking medicine?
And my friends
are not taking medicine. So even though it is as heavy as to explain to them why they are taking the drugs, you have to tell them it's because I have HIV. Maybe you were born with HIV and AIDS, and it's not your fault, and you have that condition, and then you have to take these medicines so that you can prolong your life, or maybe so that you can become healthier and stronger like the other children. But it will bring a lot, because the child will go and share it to their other peers, and maybe they start stigmatizing the child. But you start engaging to them and telling them that is not the end of the world.
Yes.
And being there for them, because these children, most of them, they will be isolated because of their condition, right?
You're different.
You're taking drugs, and then you suddenly tell us you have HIV and AIDS, and then the children will run to their parents and they're like, no, about this child, So you have to take them maybe to counseling, maybe at a young age, be there for them in each and every step. When they're isolated, take the responsibility and be the friend to your child.
Yes.
So
and make them fit in the society.
And with that, they will become healthier, stronger.
Yes.
And they will be aware of what is happening to them, and they won't really give in to stigmatization.
They'll be confident in their shoes, the way they are.
Yes, that is how I feel like.
As you give us your parting shot, thank you for that.
Okay, so my parting shot is sex education is something that we should start right from our families to school. We shouldn't give someone the sole responsibility to teach our children about sex. We should take that responsibility. And if you are an adult and you have younger siblings at your place, please try and reduce a lot of sexual information, explicit info, because for the sake of the children, they are growing and they need to develop very healthy. So try to really tone down a lot of sexual information being consumed around the house. Yes, so sex education start from home, tone down a lot of explicit information, and yes, be a good role model to your child, because they start learning from home, because charity begins at home.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, you have to teach them how to become big and amazing people as they grow up.
Wow. Thank you so much, Joanne. We have come to the end of the conversation. If we wanted to get you, where would we get you, Godwill?
My social media handles?
Yes.
On Instagram, it is @_Kardassia_. On Twitter, it's @_Kardassia_. Facebook, the same way.
The same.
Yes.
Joanne?
Twitter is @Joanne Mawea, and Instagram, I think it's just @Joanne Mawea. Yes.
That's where we would get you. If you would want to have a word with them, that's where you would get them. We've come to the end of this conversation, but right after this, we will be coming back with Faith Ann, an aspiring MCA for Umoja 2. This is going to be a conversation about women leadership, so stay tuned. Thank you so much to the Kenyatta University Peer Counseling Department for always, coming through with all this information and giving us the right people to give us the right information. We are really, really grateful. Keep tuning in, keep talking to us. Our social media handles are @KUTV Kenya on Twitter, @KUTV Kenya on Facebook, and @KUTV Kenya on Instagram.